So that was Calvinism and Arminius, and we continue to work out how that works out in all our decisions, how much sovereignty we give to God, how much free will, and how we balance that. You can have fun with your philosophy part, your apologetics part of your course, in terms of whether or not that's something you're going to argue there. But I'll let you do that when you get there. Meanwhile, Anabaptists is the next section, and in terms of what they bring, they get into trouble for two reasons. One, because of the government, they're not really sure about them, and the other is because of the theologians. The other Protestants look at them and go, well, we're not really sure about you either. And it's because they have made this decision to be in the world, but not of the world. There's a part of us that says, let's stay with the system. Let's see if we can change it from within. But some of us get to a point where you go, stuff it, let's just start again. And so you come out of the system, you start up your own thing. And that's what we see with the Anabaptists. Now, we've got a lot of things to be grateful for them for. It is out of the Moravian Anabaptists that come this sense of evangelism. Along with Count Zinzendorf, I think I'm going to pick up on that a little bit later on, but it's out of him that we see this death of Christendom, everyone's a Christian, and so why bother to evangelize anybody? And we see this rise with the Anabaptists that says, well, actually people do need to be told, and that comes out of that. There is this really dumb moment, bottom of page 6, I'll let you read that, that's just sad. Everybody's got one of these in their history, and I think on the whole we see in the Anabaptists, who of course go on to be Mennonites, and you'll be familiar with Mennonites in the form of the Amish, that line of thinking. But everybody's got this dumb part of their story, and for the Anabaptists it's the story of Munster. There's a lovely hymn, particularly from Luther, "A Mighty Fortress is Our God." And then we were going to move on to the British Reformation. We're going to talk about how things happened over here in England and how we got about our Reformation. Now, I was rather hoping that you sort of know it well enough, because there's been so many TV programs and stuff made up about it, that I didn't think I would need to particularly unpack it, but I have unpacked it in some broad detail. But what we were going to do is spend longer simply asking this question: how do you give the king what he wants? Okay, so here's the biggest of ironies. King Henry goes through all these different wives, and at the end of it, you get your Edward, and then you get your Mary, and then you get your Elizabeth, and then at the end of Elizabeth, you actually go all the way back to Henry's sister Margaret and her son James, and so we're back theologically to where we started, with somebody with really quite a Catholic approach to things. So, was all that fuss of Henry VIII, was it really worth going through? Before we get to that point, the question that I'm looking to ask you is how would you give the king what he wants? The king wants a male heir. It's just not happening with her, and so let's try another wife. So what do? You're an Anglican bishop, an advisor to the king. How do you advise your king? Option 1, don't change the wife. Just keep praying. Train up the daughter that you have got. Change the law so she can be your queen. She's going to be queen anyway, as it happens. Just go with it. Why bother to do all this changing? How good are you when it comes to preaching? How good are you at making the Bible say what you want it to say? The king wants a theological get-out clause for his divorce. So we look at Leviticus 20 verse 21 and Deuteronomy 25 verse 5 and go, can you make your Bible say, well, it's all right for the king? Because on the whole, it wouldn't be all right for us to be doing this. And here's your problem. Would you fear God, or would you fear the king? When it comes to disobeying the king, your neck is on the line. And actually, it's not just your neck, but it's going to be whatever family that you might have. Of course, you shouldn't be married at this point, so you shouldn't really have much of a family. And then what do? If you are a pro-reform bishop and the king comes to you and goes, "Here, help me get out of this problem," you're thinking, well, actually, there's something in this for me, because I think God is calling England to be more of a reformed country, and we can learn some of this Luther stuff, and it'll be good for us. So I might be able to use the king's problem situation for my benefit. So we were going to spend a little bit of time discussing and seeing where we come with that. And I think it's really tricky to be one of those bishops that says, yes, it's fine for you to have your divorce, and to argue the toss theologically and so on. I think that's really difficult. You've got the stuff here about lax and immoral clergy. The concept of pluralities might be a new one to you. Well, not especially to a lot of vicars these days. We have this multiple churches that we look after. It's not really what plurality means here. What it means is that you've got a whole bunch of churches to be looking after, 3 or 4, but you don't look after them. You just receive the tithe, the monies that come to you. That pays for you to live nicely in London, because that's the place to be. So you live nicely there, whilst you employ a curate to come and do your services and all that kind of churchy rubbish nonsense that you don't need to do because you're enjoying the life up in London. And we continue to see that happening. There's stories even in this village of a curate in the 1890s who writes to his bishop saying, "I'm not being paid properly, I'm being overused and abused in my role," whilst the rector is off swanning and enjoying the high life. So that sort of idea has been a problem for a while. So plurality is clearly starting to irk the common people in terms of money just being given to this man to do nothing. And that's obviously beginning to be a bit irksome. Stuff here on Henry VII, Henry VIII, and a bit on your Bible. The all-important Cardinal Wolsey and his failure, which moves us nicely into the world of Thomas Cromwell and into Archbishop Thomas Cranmer. And that takes you into the Acts of Supremacy, and we move on to Articles. Now, the Articles of Religion, you'll find them at the back of your BCP. Here's a BCP I prepared earlier, and at the back of your Book of Common Prayer, at the back of it you'll find Articles of Religion, 39 of them. Not yet at this point in history. At this point in history we get 6, I think. Edward VI will add to them, Mary will take away, and then Elizabeth will... No, Mary just gets rid of them. It's Elizabeth who reduces them to 39 in the end from 42. So 1936, here we are, I'm on page 13. You've got your 10 articles of religion. So whilst you've got this movement of Henry as he seeks to solve his problem, you've also got Edward coming in with his son Edward coming in with his Reformation ideas. And in the backdrop of all this, you've still got this Catholic voice being heard. So you've got this guy, Stephen Gardiner, and how he begins to regain influence with Henry, and begins to bring back in a bit more of a Catholic tone. All right, keep reading.